I'm not interested in telling the story about what we're doing. I'm interested in selling oil. You say that,
yeah.
But
those two go together, obviously, right? I mean, we can't
not
sell
obviously.
oil if we're not.
You don't have to tell. You don't have to tell
in a sort of telling our story kind of sense, right?
I feel like I'm listening to the duck speak, the Kim Kardashian talking points of Catherine McKenna and Justin Trudeau and Rachel Notley. You don't need to tell a story to sell oil. 90 million barrels of oil are bought and sold every day, much of it from Saudi Arabia, Iran, Nigeria, Venezuela. They don't need to tell a story. They just need to sell oil. And your line about balancing the economy and the environment, what on earth does that have to do with being subject to some UN scam? I can't. You have utterly absorbed the talking points of Catherine McKenna. She has said those exact same things.
You know, sorry, but that is completely unfair, right? Like every single day, conservative MPs stand up to fight back against the carbon tax and
not this day. Not this day.
Those are the things that matter to my constituents: opposing the carbon tax and getting pipelines through, and taking an approach that doesn't fight on ground we can't win on, and that chooses to fight on ground that matters so much more and that we can win on. That's the responsible approach that I think we need to take. And you know, doesn't mean people are always going to agree with us. Doesn't mean we're always going to agree with you. But we got to have a respectful conversation here about the reality that what matters to my constituents is achieving results for the energy sector. And
how did this do that? How did that
in this motion or in the accord that takes away from our ability to do that? It's the Liberal plan to supposedly implement it that we take issue with, and have always will and will continue to.
So you say, with honesty and belief, that you believe being part of the United Nations Paris Agreement makes it easier to sell Alberta oil? Is that what you're saying?
Ezra, I think that if we were to say we are one of a very small number of countries that are outside of it, we would,
like the United
in certain
States
environments, it would make it much more difficult. For instance, in Europe, right? We have, I think, an opportunity by getting the Energy East pipeline built to market our oil resources to Europe. And that requires us to sell what our policy mix is, to show
Iran, Saudi Arabia, Russia. You know who sells oil to Europe? Iran, Saudi Arabia, Russia. Do they have to sell their policy mix? You are sounding like Justin Trudeau. Does Saudi Arabia have to sell itself?
You'll get no argument from me that there are huge problems environmentally in terms of human rights.
You think China doesn't want our oil?
I raise these issues repeatedly, the human rights issues themselves, as well as the fact that Canadian energy is a much better alternative than this.
You haven't answered my question.
But I'm just saying we should put our best foot forward here, Ezra, right? Like you need to recognize that. I think that we can put our best foot forward, and we can fight on the issues that matter, on carbon taxes, on pipelines, and we can get better results if we actually position ourselves for success in that argument.
Yeah. You know what? Rachel Notley has been using those exact lines for 2 years. She's saying if we just stab ourselves in the eye, if we just stab ourselves in the eye, and we'll buy social license. That's what you're saying. We'll buy.
No, that's not what I'm saying. Because the Paris Agreement doesn't stab us in the eye. The Paris Agreement has no negative impact on us.
Have you read the Paris Agreement?
The targets.
Have you read it?
Ezra,
have you read it?
Knowledge form.
Have you read it?
The Paris Agreement involves Canada setting our own targets, which are ultimately non-binding.
Have you read it?
We take issue with the carbon tax that Rachel Notley is proposing, that Justin Trudeau is proposing. We are opposed to the carbon tax, and that's a critical difference. That's not critical.
Have you read the Paris Agreement?
Yes.
You've read the entire Paris Agreement?
Yes.
Were you whipped into doing this?
On every, not every, but almost every vote, we receive a recommendation from the whip. Personally, I don't know what other conversations other members had. I never discussed it with the whip because I was convinced and remain convinced that our vote was the right decision.
Hey, if you like that, sign up for my show every day. Click on the screen to subscribe.